Olá, mais uma vez, bom dia e bem-vindo de novo depois deste coffee break, desta pausa para um café, ou vários cafés mesmo, já que a pausa até foi de algum modo longa. Agora, vamos falar de startups, até porque a pandemia mudou a maneira das pessoas pensarem e também fazerem negócios. Há que olhar para este mundo, para as necessidades de um modo diferente. As solicitações, como ainda há pouco falávamos, são cada vez mais e quer-se as coisas de um modo muito rápido. E por isso mesmo neste painel vamos falar desta questão, da ideia à realidade, criar uma startup pronta para o investimento. É este o mote, portanto o tema está lançado. Quem o vai moderar é Olga Fleming, a quem chama ao palco. Ela vai moderar este painel. Thank you, you can go, you can come. And you can sit over there, in the first place. Thank you. A Olga, que é investidora, é empreendedora e está sempre de olho para as startups. Participa também o Espírito Santo, que vai estar, e já está, presumo eu, online. Olá, Hugo, bom dia. Olá, Hugo, bom dia.
Bom dia.
Olá, vai estar a participar daqui a alguns instantes neste painel, quando começarem a conversar. Bem-vindo ao Portugal Air Summit. Mia Jafari, da Futuravia. Hi, Mia. Welcome to Portugal Air Summit. E também Frederico Fernandes, sócio e diretor da Wise. Olá, Frederico. Bom dia. Deve ser boa pessoa, porque tem o nome do meu filho. Agora, também devo dizer que desde o início deste Portugal Air Summit, vou roubar aqui um bocadinho de espaço à Olga, desde o início deste Portugal Air Summit têm sido feitas audições a startups, ver exatamente o que é que elas podem dar no futuro. E o que é certo é que elas vão participar de algum modo neste painel, já vai ver como. Até já, pela minha parte, and have a nice work. Thank you
so much. Thank you. So our climate changes and COVID-19, all those global challenges actually call for a different way of doing business. That is why corporates, governments, startups, and lawmakers are forced to work together and to create ecosystems for startups, which are actually crucial. And this panel will explore why Portugal is a perfect place for such ecosystem and how do we create such ecosystems. So my first question goes to Mia, and I'd like to ask you actually, what do you think is key to create such ecosystem? Because you have a huge experience in Dubai, so maybe you can share those elements with us.
Yeah. So hello, thank you for inviting me and welcome everyone. So up to recently I was managing the Interlac Hub, which is a travel, aviation, tourism startup hub based in Dubai, led by the Emirates Group, Accenture, Microsoft, and leading partners. And so really what I saw was a really important thing in building these ecosystems is if we have startups collaborating with corporates on an eye-to-eye level, and we create the right programs and infrastructures to enable startups who are very agile, who work very fast, who have really brilliant ideas, and some of them you'll see later on, being able to collaborate with corporations and really build innovations at scale. So I think having a collaborative, open mindset, a space for co-creation, a space for looking at ideas from a different point of view, and then take it to the next stage through investment, through partnerships, really is what we're looking for the future moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Federico, do you have anything to add to these key elements? Because you have a lot of experience in the region as well.
Yeah, so my name is Frederico Fernandes. I'm Portuguese. I'm based in Dubai for the last 7 years, and I help to accelerate and incubate startups projects, SMEs projects, government projects, and I think that on the aviation and travel sector it's very important sustainability in the perspective that young people should be able to generate as amazing ideas so that we can either lower costs or be more sustainable on the business model, and it's very interesting. United Arab Emirates invests on that, and Portugal now is investing even more on that. So every talent, every idea, it's very important for us, and we will help them follow up with the investment.
Definitely. Hugo, what do you think makes a startup, let's call it idea for the startup, to create actually the deck or whatever, the business model that is worth investing? What does it take from startup?
So first of all, thank you all, and very nice to be here. Listen, I think there are, fundamental elements. I think, and let me take this instead of a very general question about what could this be for a startup in the aviation in Portugal. I think a couple of points are important. It has to build on our competitive advantages, right? It cannot just be a very good idea. It has to be something that drastically changes the way we think about the sector. Many times I'm approached by individuals that have an idea of creating a new airline. I'm not, nothing against that one. I just feel that that's not the right idea of a startup. We need to be much more geared towards the future of the industry. And the future of the industry entails sustainability, as you mentioned, right? So we have a huge challenge to decarbonize our industry. And it entails a second element, which is new ways, new mobility, right? Or if you want, new urban mobility, new freight mobility. And those two elements have to be at the center of whatever we find. I think the third element, or the third reflection I would have is, we need to look at the startup space in Portugal, right? With a good idea that goes off the beaten track, that addresses the long-term trends in the sector. We also need something that goes into what we need and what we, as a country, fundamentally require. And I think there is a big challenge regarding industrialization. We need to reindustrialize the country. We need new ways of, new industries that can really bring value add to the country. And so I think, how can we do that? How can we create this new industrial play? Would be kind of the third big topic. I think if you ask me, how does this work in practical terms? I think we need to have an ecosystem, right? I think that, and I think this notion of ecosystem that Mia mentioned is very, very important. Without an ecosystem, we have uncoordinated effort, right? And we see this in many industries, right? We see in pharma, we see in others. The notion of the ecosystem that brings venture capital, that brings governments, that brings innovative corporations, that brings leading anchor institutions into the same place is fundamental for the success of the startup. So it's not just about having a good idea. We need to have the right context. We need to have in a way that is aligned with the future of the industry, and in a way that is aligned with what the region or country needs.
Thank you. Frederico, why do you think Portugal is one of the best places for aviation startup ecosystem, to create such ecosystem?
Because I think we Portuguese have always been believers, and we are very audacious in what we do. And Ponte Sur is a very good reflex of that. Ponte Sur was mainly concentrated in the agro industry and cork producing. And now you can see and on the macro perspective how small the village is and how big is Portugal Air Summit, and all the players are here. So I saw the main airline, I saw the Civil Aviation Authority, I saw everyone, the industry around here trying to understand what's going on. Portugal have this perspective. We are innovators. We are the home base now for Web Summit. So there is this perspective that we can do things to innovate, and we are. I think we are very good designers. We are very good workers, industrials. We all speak English, most of them. So practically the majority. And I can see also another thing that is travel and tourism. So Portugal is or have. Looks at the center as the industry of tourism as a big player on our economy. So people need to fly in, people need services, people need to be on the airport, people need to be scanned, safety, security. So Portugal plays a very, very important role on that sector, and we all should be contributing to the richness of that sector that will enrich everything. So I think it's a perfect storm.
Absolutely. What I have to add to this one, the perfect example, actually not really example, the summary why, but I also think that government here is very supportive, and if speaking of law-making process and adapting it's very flexible. So it's very easy for a place actually to create an ecosystem, because if they are stubborn, they are not cooperative enough, it's really challenging. So yeah, Mia, what do you think? You have a great pool of those startups collaborating with big corporates, and I think nowadays world is about partnerships and collaborations. How do you see collaboration or partnerships with public-private sector or public startups? What startups should do, in your opinion, to get those partnerships, and how they should operate in this way?
So this is the third time I've been to Portugal, and I absolutely love it. So I think, as Frederico said, it's a perfect fertile ground for this new ecosystem to be built, and I think we can all really feel it here. So, but majority of my experience is international, and I think, you know, with any startup, whether they're based in Portugal or wherever in the world, I think it's really important that they get themselves ready to have those talks with big corporates. And I think one of the things is startups generally do work in silos. So you see that, you know, great ideas come from universities or PhD students, or someone had an idea from a problem they had and they build a startup, and this is all good, but then, you know, to kind of get ready to build that relationship with corporates and go in the long game and really be able to talk their language and create mutual benefit, it takes time and effort, and I think that's why accelerators are really good, incubators, where you have that opportunity to have a conversation eye to eye with different corporates, really understand their needs, learn to talk their language, learn to create like strong value propositions together. So I think whether it's Portugal, anywhere in the world, I think startups should join accelerators that really build that relationship, get them ready to have that conversation with big corporations or investors or whoever they need to scale and grow their ventures.
Absolutely.
Can I add one thing? Sorry. Yeah,
absolutely.
Sure. So let me add one thing that Mia comment that is very, very important. This ecosystem or the innovation in our industry is not as, you know, not as present as in others, right? And so let's take pharma, right? And I know this is a little bit off of Portugal Air Summit, but let's look at pharma, which is by definition an industry that requires innovation. One of the things that is impressive is that Europe produces 30% more academic papers than United States, yet it has 10% of the patents of United States. This means one thing: if we want to have startups, we need academia to be present. We need, you know, governance, all of this, but we need them with an entrepreneurial spirit, right? And so I think, while I love my country, right, and I truly believe we have unique conditions, I also believe that we need to fundamentally shift the way we educate people, right? And the way we prepare the people, so that we are much more entrepreneurial, that we are much more ambitious, right? That we are ready to be able to do something at scale that changes the way and the landscape. So I'm talking about this for Portugal. To be honest, if we look at Europe has a huge gap versus United States in R&D and in the way they are leading innovation. So it's not just a problem of Portugal. We are, if you want a reflection of what happens in Europe, right? You know the joke. In our top 100 companies, only one has less than 40 years. It's SAP. Which tells a lot that we are not doing what we need as a continent and then as a country to drive innovation. So very important, this notion that you're talking about, we need academia, but we need it with an entrepreneurial spirit, right?
So that is a very good remark, but how do we create this entrepreneurial spirit? Because it comes with generations, right? And we need to create this now and here, because we need those ecosystems, and also we need those entrepreneurs, really great ones. So what do you think, Frederico? How can we do that?
Yeah, definitely is a good point, and thank you for bringing us to reality. I was being a little bit optimist, and let me tell you a story. My first startup failed, and I was looked as a loser, and it's not correct. In America, we don't have this problem. We can fail our startup. We can fail a second time. We can go to jail, and we can come back and, oh, this guy's an entrepreneur. So, in fact, Portugal still on that spirit is a little bit shy. But I also feel that when I started in the aviation sector and travel before, I would say that this was 14, 15 years ago. I'm just 25. Things were different. The older guys had a very different approach, more in silos. And if you didn't belong to their club, you will not listen. So we come from a space, United Arab Emirates, Dubai, where things are the opposite. You have an idea, I want to listen. I don't care who you are, I want to listen. So I think this is the path. The path is for us to indeed agree with what was said, that we do have a path to go, and especially academia. But we saw some good examples in the startups. They came from academia, and they're doing a very good job. And I think that you'll be surprised today, but it's true. We need to make it more, and we need to embrace entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is about failing and improving. So most of you guys will have a company that most probably your idea will fail, but it's good. It's the path, it's the process.
Well, absolutely. Even if you look at the successful startups, it's often the very pivoted idea, and the initial business plan or deck or whatever, it was not what they do now,
yes.
right?
Yes.
So what do you think, Mia? How can we boost this entrepreneurial spirit here in Europe? Because absolutely, Federico is right, like UAE is a little bit different, but what do you think helps those people to be different?
Okay. Yeah, definitely, thank you. So I also grew up in the UK. I had my design business in London for 4 years, and I came from a university background. And I remember, I had no entrepreneurial training. 4 years, I was like really struggling. I was so passionate about my product, but I just didn't know how to make it into a business. And I think looking back, I really wasn't part of that ecosystem where we talked about failure, we talked about entrepreneurship, we talked about the conversations we're having now. Because it was all about the product, and and I think where I see Dubai is quite different. Is everyone has that spirit of the entrepreneur. Everyone's thinking about the next idea, and it's just part of everyone's culture. So if you're having a coffee in a coffee shop, someone next door to you is talking about a business idea. So it's just something that's inherent, and I think we need to encourage this idea that being an entrepreneur, it's okay to fail, it's okay to make mistakes, but you need to think like an entrepreneur, so not get passionate about your product service and then stick to it. Really think about the needs of the users, how can you create value, and how can you create value for people, planet, and ultimately make money. So I think, the more conversations we have like this, the more we cross-fertilize ideas, the more we have like conversations with like Silicon Valley and places like Dubai where they're doing these kind of things. And then we start to build the culture around entrepreneurship, around innovation. I think that's really important. Not all of us are going to be entrepreneurs, but I think having that entrepreneurial mindset wherever you work will really create that agility and strength to create the future.
Thank you, absolutely. And yeah, I think that there is also one very important point missing. Sorry for being very lawyerish, but the law system in most European countries, like legal system, it doesn't allow to go very easily through bankruptcy procedures and all these things. And I think this is where we really need an impact and hard work of lawmakers and cooperation from their side, because as far as I know, most of the EU countries I'm aware of, they have these difficulties. And I have a question for Hugo. Actually, because you know this market the best, you've been here for like years. How do you see the collaboration between governments and startups, and also, let's call it private sector, but big corporates and startup? Is it actually happening or not really?
I think it is. Let me, first of all, let me say that, why we are having this panel, you're having the panel in Ponsor, I'm having it in Madrid, but I think the fact that we are having this panel in Ponsor is also, a recognition that things are starting to move. You commented Web Summit. It is a good thing, right? Not for itself, but for the awareness that it brings. I think there is a lot of good things happening, right? And there is a lot of positive collaborative spirit in the startup space and between the public entities and private sector. I think the question for me is about, you spoke about not being afraid to fail. That is a very important one. I think there is one element which is the long-term focus, right? We should not aim to have a startup or any other business entrepreneurial effort for a short-term profit, right? So how do we ensure the long-term view, right? And then I think we need to create the right conditions, and that's where I think you talk about the law system, and you're absolutely right, Olga. I think it's much more complex than UK and the Anglo-Saxon system in many ways. I think the tax system doesn't really help, right? I think there is, I think we need, a much more streamlined version, a much more direct direct incentives would be helpful. And I think the notion of, for me, also the idea of scale, right? And I'll tell you why. I think if we talk about specific events, that's all great. But we need to be able to create scale, right? Only with scale we are able to build the ecosystem. The ecosystem does not occur in small setups, right? And I think one of the challenges I see a lot of efforts, right? And I see a lot of good cooperation, but I don't really see these being done at the right scale. So how can we ensure this scale? How can we build this? How can we build this? I think for me that's kind of the big question and the thing we need to sort.
Thank you so much. And honestly, I think we've came up with a lot of problems to be solved or questions to be answered. And I think we're very good to go. And I'll give each of you like 20 seconds to final remark, if any. And we'll move on to two startups who actually were the winners of the Boost program yesterday, and we'd love to hear their pitch. So,
to hear their pitch, this is my comment. Great days of work. The stage will be yours in a few minutes. Looking forward to.
I would say, to build these ecosystems, I think everyone has to take their little responsibility, whether you're a startup, whether you're a corporate, whether you're an investor. So we all have that kind of power to create. So I think everyone in this room watching should try and do their bit. And I think, just starting by looking at these startups that are going to present and saying, how can I help them? What kind of connections can I give them? And really saying, how can we create this ecosystem right now, here, together, by helping these startups? I think that's a very great call to action that we can all have. Thank you.
So I would say three things. First of all, I think this discussion is far more reaching than just the fact that we are creating startups. I think for us in Portugal and in Europe, it's a social imperative. We are an aging population and increasingly competing with robots. So reinventing ourselves is key. I think the second one, we need to be aligned with the long term, right? And I think for me, that's kind of, one of the things I've been consultant all my life. One of the things is the typical default. We look at things we want to do in a backward-looking way, not in a forward-looking way. We need to look at what's happening and what are the long-term trends. If we align with those, things will happen. And then I think the last comment is around, we have a fantastic place for this to develop. And so we need, yes, we need to do more, I'm sure, but if we play the right cards, I am deeply convinced that we are among the winners in the startup space. And we can be it can be one of the powerhouses in Europe in terms of innovation.
Thank you so much. And then, Patricia, welcome to the stage to pitch. Please welcome our startup.
Thank you so much. I'll just need my presentation, and there we go. So, hi. My name is Patricia, and before talking about Explore, I would love to tell you a story. I was a tour guide for 7 years, and during 7 years, I had travelers coming to me and asking me, what is the things I suggest for them to do in that moment? I noticed they were getting more spontaneous, they were demanding personalization, and current solutions were failing them, leaving them frustrated and relying on me to try to tailor for what they needed in that specific moment. And then it hit me that the problem is not theirs, the problem is not ours. The problem is current solutions don't account for their needs specifically, and your needs, other people's needs, in the same time, in the same place, will always be different. So the touristic offer you see in that moment should also be different. So this makes the process of finding something to do or where to eat frustrating, time-consuming, and in the end, flawed. So our research showed the majority of people just uses Google as an alternative to search for their recommendations, but they're not entirely satisfied with it. So we created something better. We created Explore, a smart travel solution powered by deep learning algorithms that provides users with hyper-relevant results in real time. This means that in just a few steps, With 1, 2, 3 clicks, you get what you need for that moment, and then we, with you, help you choose. So imagine you're looking for a place to eat, to have breakfast. We would pop you up a question saying, is it a brunch? Do you want a quiet place? And then immediately you would see something different. So this makes the process of finding something to do faster, simpler, and in the end, smarter. Now, how will we swim the big ocean of apps? Well, this is a question we get asked a lot, but our main goal is to implement an ambassador program, leveraging on people that are already sharing their recommendations actively and giving them better tools to do it so we can leverage and empower these people with the force of technology. Now, by implementing this ambassador program, we align our key strategic partners with local guides and also with content creators, with the idea of creating a viral engine of growth where even users themselves can share their recommendations with people that are coming to that destination in a seamless way. Now, we tested this, of course, to test our assumptions. And we did a quick test with one guide in one city, which is Porto, my hometown. And with 1.1K people that he saw over the course of 2.5 months, we reached 65,000 views of the same map. Well, this indicates, in the end, that people weren't just seeing it multiple times a day while they were on vacations, but they were actually sharing that with their friends that were coming to visit. So this implies and proves the virality of this model. Now, generating revenue is another discussion. There are several things we can account for. Our eyes are set on the price, which is leveraging data and use it as a service. But what we can implement right now is collecting commissions on in-app transactions. Just a quick overview of the numbers. We know the market is pretty big. We did rough calculations for the city of Porto, and we are estimating to generate about 273,000 euros per city over the course of 1 year. This is some of our partners, including Demium, which was our first investor and accelerator. And this is what we'll be doing right now. So, like I said, we were accelerated by Demium in order to put the founding team on board, have us full-time. We are doing a POC in Porto. We have our first beta testers. We tested with 40 ambassadors in order to tailor our solution to their specific needs. We're at this moment developing it, and the next goal is to create this network of ambassadors in Porto and test this reproducibility in Lisbon. We have other people pending, partnerships with places like Europe Cars, with Airbnbs, and so on. So in order to do this, we need to catalyze and we need to have a bigger team, so we're doing a financing round. Now, let me tell you about the team. Combined, we have experience in the travel sector, in UX UI design, and also in back-end engineering. 10+ years of this. You can see specifically the details here. But the most important thing is, these guys believed in me when I was just this, a tour guide. When I was simply telling recommendations, and this was the first step, them believing in me. Then other people believed in me and put their money where their mouth was. And we started proving and tailoring our way bit by bit. So it's specifically to bring this mission and bring this dream of ours to life that we're raising 200,000 euros in order to increase our team, to scale and to speed up our development, and to make sure that the process of choosing something to do while in the destination is fun, but above that is faster, simpler, and smarter. Thank you.
Great job. Thank you so much. And now, Dario, welcome on stage.
I'm Dario from Beyond Vision, and I'm going to present our company. We started as a research and development company focusing on drones on 2018, and some of our partners push us to go commercial. And just this year, we started our commercial sector, and we have expected to finish the year with around 1 million in revenues. To summarize the company, we have a cloud platform that is drone agnostic, so any type of drone you can plug to our cloud platform and integrate in your system, have live feed, control it from the other side of the world. But some specific features were impossible to do with the drones that were on the market. So we started developing our own drones that have 4G and 5G, and it's really simple to adapt any type of payload to our drones. Also, we started from research and development. We have around 2 million in grants already, and have 5 ongoing European projects, and it's something that will keep on the company. Looking at our management team, myself, Dario, I have a PhD that was related to drones. I won an European Award with the most innovative PhD. Our CTO, Alvaro, have worked previously at Mercedes and joined our team to be the responsible of the aerospace and mechanical team. Our COO, Pedro Lozan, has over 25 years in product development. Fabio is our director of robotics and is also has a PhD on these fields. And our chairman, Luis Campos, has the PhD in electronics, has worked at NASA, and has over 25 years in boosting companies. Our team structure right now is divided on 6 areas. The 4 that I like to highlight the most is our robotics team, our mechanics and our space engineering team, our software development team that works on our clouds, and our electronics team. And with this, we can develop a solution end-to-end with drones. We have multiple partnerships. The main ones are with NVIDIA that allow us to have a specific kernel on our drone to run AI algorithms in real time while the drone is flying, and Amazon for our cloud platform. We have been awarded with multiple prizes lately and have done over 20 publications in relevant journals in the last 2 years, and that's something that you do for protecting our IP. The drone business is growing, and I think there's no point on me entering in much detail on this area, but there's one thing missing, really simple and modular solution like Windows did a few years ago for laptops, but for drones, and that's something we have been working on. The drone landscape is vastly dominated by DJI, but they are focusing on the amateur market, and there's a lot of potential for new approaches in the industrial market, and there's a lot of technology advances that we have that tear us apart from the competition. Our cloud platform is something that it's clearly differentiated from the rest of the players in the market, as it encapsulates most of the features that you need to work with drones. Our main drone is IFU, which is a C3 certified UAV, and it's operated in multiple countries in Europe as an AI processor on board, and you can operate it from the other side of the world using 4G and 5G. One key point on IFU is that it flies for around 17 minutes. That's roughly 40% more that you'll have on the rest of the competition of drones. We just started working on our latest aircraft, our VTOL. It has the features of a standard drone where it can take off and land on the same spot, but in midair, it can transition to a fixed-wing aircraft and fly for around 3 hours. We have been working in multiple areas. We have clients that work on the farming sector with precision agriculture. We have, for example, the police in Ireland that uses our drones for multiple operations. On the military market with NATO, we do military surveillance. On Germany, we have clients on the transportation sector and the power lines inspection sector. And we're just exploring new markets with new clients on the security and construction sector. We have multiple ongoing research and development projects. The biggest ones that we are focused right now is Afra Cloud, 5G, Securitas, which is used to boost the technology that you have on cybersecurity on our drone, distributed artificial intelligence for drones, IoT, and AI for real AG. Right now, we are looking for a strategic partner that helps us grow to new markets. And we're looking for around 3 million with a company valuation of 38 million. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now I think everybody understands why those two were the winners. They were from very different stages. Dario's startup is acceleration part. Patricia is more of an incubator stage. So yeah, thank you everyone. Thank you audience and our great speakers, and hopefully see you next year.